Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of E-commerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place where every related to Amazon FBA private level and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you two special new guests. So the name are Shaheer and Hamza, and they're both co-founders of East Amazon, where they specialize on everything that has to do with inventory planning. The reason why I wanted to bring both of them today is because I have seen what they've been doing with their company, and I think it's very interesting, especially because when it comes to Amazon, I know that firsthand that it comes that we work with so many brands that inventory management is one of the biggest struggles when it comes to really operating business. Not only because most of the brands, if they don't do it correctly, they run out of stock, but it's usually the main source of really inefficiency when it comes to profitability, especially because they don't know the fees they're paying to Amazon, they don't know how much inventory they have to have in hand, and more importantly, how that's affecting their cash flow. So hopefully today, with some of the insights we're going to be getting from Shahir and Hamza, we can give you as much insight and more importantly, allowing you to really prepare, especially that we're getting into Q4, to be ready to maximize what you can get out of 2026. So Shahir, Hamza, welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
We are doing good. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you. A pleasure to have both of you. So I guess for those that might not know you, it would be great to start with a quick introduction from both of you. So if you guys can give
Mhm.
us just a quick kind of rundown, how you guys got started, and then of course we can dive into the topic. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so we are Ease Amazon and we run supply chain and inventory hub for e-commerce brands holding real stock. It includes forecasting, reorder timing, purchase orders, freight, 3PL coordination, and we never touch ads, listings, or creatives. Hamza has been in this world for about 6 years now, and I came in from the sales side. And between us, the whole business is basically on one question, that is, how much do you order and when?
Nice. Cool. Hamza, anything you want to add on that side?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And
Thank you.
I'll just say that I'm excited to share some of the insights that I have acquired over the years working with multiple brands and aggregators and all sorts of different businesses that I have helped solve these supply chain problems. And yeah, just excited to share.
Awesome. Thank you, both of you, for being here. So I guess with that said, we can definitely kick off. I think we were having this conversation before going live, which is, really trying to figure out what are some of the biggest struggles when it comes to managing inventory, especially in 2026. Amazon is getting more and more complex with so many hidden fees, so many limitations. So I guess that's going to be a good starting point for everybody joining us and, hearing this podcast. So I guess first handed, especially from you guys that you're handling so many brands and you're handling all these kind of operations that, they came to you because they were struggling in the first place when it comes to managing inventory. What would you say are some of the main things, especially right now, Amazon sellers are struggling the most? And sometimes they're not even aware that's happening, that you think is definitely not allowing them to scale and potentially scaling the Amazon business.
So what's happening is in a lot of sellers that grow past a certain point, let's say a million mark or a 2 million mark, they start expanding their catalog, their business wide. So they would add more SKUs, they would add more variants of their current good selling SKUs, and they also introduce new channels. They want to start their own Shopify store, they want to sell on TikTok shop, they want to do Walmart, WFS, all of that. With that comes complexity, because you have to make sure that you have enough stock at all stock locations that you can fulfill all that demand. With that complexity, you know comes the pains of supply chain that we have had the pleasure and the chance to solve for a lot of sellers. The problems that they face most is that their cash flow gets destroyed with the expansion of catalog, a lot of their cash gets stuck into inventory because to order the right amount of inventory, you have to know how much you're going to be selling in the future, where it includes your lead times as well. For example, if my lead times are 60 days, I should plan my inventory for the days 60 days out, not what I have been selling in the last month or 2 months. Those are the places where sellers struggle a bit, and they require experts to come on board, solve these issues for them, make sure their cash is free to invest more in growth, and stop the leakages that comes with the growth that they are doing. That those leakages could be stock sitting in warehouses that nobody's working on, nobody's trying to sell that stock. The leakages could be where they are sending stock in Amazon, and Amazon is losing that inventory, and those shipments are not reconciled properly. The leakages can be being very vigilant of when your purchase orders are with suppliers and when they are going to get ready, when they need to be shipped out. So everything needs to be in a sync and a flow, and wherever there is stagnation, things start to hurt you. So we make sure we have a system, we have a plan. We come into a business and we install that system. We call it an in stock engine. It's the engine here symbolizes that things need to keep moving. Things can't get your inventory, your stock cannot be stagnant anywhere. So we come in, we have experts on board, we onboard a brand, and we make sure first we stop all the leakages. you know we look for any overstock that is happening across your supply chains. We make sure what to order, when to order, how much to order. We make sure all of your sales channels get ample inventory and can fulfill their demands. We make sure your purchase orders are in motion, they are being tracked, all the dates are well established, so that data becomes clear and our forecasting and demand planning becomes more efficient and more you know good.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I love the fact that, of course, a lot of the things you just mentioned, data driven, which is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, that's really what is going to ensure that whatever projection or kind of business plans you do moving forward from an inventory point of view is accurate. I guess, out of curiosity, what a lot of times I get asked a lot, is especially for Amazon sellers when they're getting started, but maybe they don't have a lot of data, or they haven't really gone through a specific seasonal event, or they don't know how Q4 is going to behave for them. Like, I'm curious, like from an inventory point of view and logistically, what is usually your advice for people to kind of be prepared if they don't know from experience what is going to happen, because they haven't really gone through that phase yet? Is there some advice you guys can give in terms of how to be ready for situations like that?
So if you are importing for Q4, the
Hmm.
order that protects your Q4 is being decided this week, mid of August, not in September. So take your first big selling day in November, count backwards through receivings, customs, sailing box, and production using your supplier's real numbers rather than an average. And the date is either just behind you or it is a days away. Most brands have not checked it yet.
Okay, so I guess in terms of timelines, which is what I had in mind to ask next, we're talking that these kind of operations, Hamza mentioned, you quickly just mentioned, Shahir, is we should allow ourselves for anything that has to do with preparing towards an event. At least I'm picturing here 3 months in advance, right? So what I'm saying is, let's say for those hearing and watching this podcast right now, that they're really struggling to understand how much inventory they have to have for Q4, how much they need to essentially make sure they don't keep on stock right now to avoid long term storage fees or things like that. Is that something that at least you will say 2 to 3 months is the minimum people should allocate themselves, right, to be ready for?
Every brand at any stage of their business has to make these decisions, not just new ones, because every brand
Mm-hmm.
is growing and they are launching new products, and those products do not have a history that can tell them how this product is going to behave in future or in Q4. That specific product hasn't gone through those trends basically. So the first time a product goes through a cycle, it is it is a struggle. It is more predictive. So in that scenario, I would advise caution rather than being overstocked. Caution is a little bit of restraint. Do not order thinking that your sales can 10x in Q4. Maybe keep a factor of 2x from your, and it depends on product by product as well, and the category, how the whole category of those product is behaving. So look into that a little bit. If those category of products have a growing trend or a rescending trend, and make your decisions based off of that. If you sell a small and light product, you can afford to in your growth phase, in your first
Mm-hmm.
growth cycles, you can afford to have quicker delivery times by air freight. So keep a lean stock and more replenish on multiple occasions, so that
Mm-hmm.
you are not overstocked on that product. Once inventory leaves your 3PL warehouse or your supplier warehouse and goes into FBA, it is really difficult and very costly. I have seen many businesses just go out of business just because of this reason, that they send too much inventory in FBA, and the cost of, and you have to, receive it back. It's not a question, either you have to liquidate that or you have to
Mm-hmm.
receive it back. It's not a question of just keeping it there indefinitely, or donating it to somebody. It's,
Yeah.
you have to eat that cost. So beware of that cost. Exercise caution, show a little bit of restraint with, especially with new products that you are launching. And yeah, that would be my advice. Go easy.
Cool. So now on that, you mentioned something very interesting, liquidation or getting rid of inventory. I want to quickly touch on that because sometimes I get asked a lot when sellers encounter themselves on the situation where they have too much inventory in hand, and they're really struggling to make the decision if it's better to liquidate or kind of donate the inventory or try to sell it. Because at the other day, if you try to sell it, you have storage fees and especially long-term storage fees and other fees associated with that. But on the other side, if you liquidate or get rid of the product, you are potentially selling the opportunity or kind of keep generating revenue that if you do a good job potentially and the product is a good product, you should be able to figure that out. So is there a way that you guys internally have come up or maybe some recommendations to allow sellers to make the decision easier? Like how do you choose either to give it a try and try to sell this inventory, or sometimes it's better to just liquidate? How do you make that decision,
To make that decision, it's very important that you know your numbers well. You have to know that if you liquidate, you would be losing exactly this much money. And
Mm-hmm.
if you keep try and sell it, you'll sell it at this much loss. To keep that data pipeline clean and transparent, the work starts a lot sooner, not at the time that you are thinking of liquidation. If your whole business, if your whole system is running on clean data, you can make those decisions rather easily. For example, you would know once inventory is in FBA, and you're seeing that sales are dropping, and it's going to get difficult, and you have to spend more on ads to liquidate that. Essentially, liquidate can mean two things: liquidation through Amazon, and you yourself could reduce the price so much that it's basically liquidation on your part,
Mhm.
or you spend so much on ads that it is basically liquidation at at cost or at a loss. To make those decisions easy and to take those decisions at the right time, the work starts a lot earlier, where your whole data pipeline and your numbers are accurate. You know what your cogs are, you know what your fees are, you know how much it's going to cost when you are going to run certain amount of ads on that product. What my recommendation, a small tip would be, try to sell it on your own, even if you have to eat that cost, because at the end of the day, liquidation is you paying somebody more to take that inventory off of your hand. If it's better if you can recoup some of that investment back with more ads and
Mhm.
reduced prices, you also get a little bit of a boost on your account as a seller rating and an account rating, that you have sold more inventory there. But not to say, there does come a point where there is a number there where selling it yourself becomes more expensive than liquidation. At that
Mhm.
point, you have to make that switch and liquidate it using Amazon's or any third. There are third-party services out there. We have some partner companies as well who help sellers out with this liquidation process, and they can get their inventory out of FBA as well.
Okay. So now, with that said, of course, a lot of these scenarios have to do on the unfortunate situation where maybe sales are not scaling as fast as expected. Maybe the product just not really performing at the level that the potential Amazon seller was expecting. Therefore, it's either going to liquidation or trying to figure out if it makes sense to keep selling it. But on the other side of the coin, there's also the other kind of a scenario where it's the business scaling so fast and sales are performing so well that it's difficult to keep up with the scale at which the business is growing, right? And I think at that scale is so difficult to handle. Okay, how often I need to place orders with a manufacturer? How often I need to have inventory in hand? How do I make sure if it makes sense to have all inventory on Amazon, or it makes sense to have a secondary warehouse? So that becomes such a minefield that small things can get very costly very fast. So on that other kind of situation, what are some of the recommendations, some of the mistakes also you guys see during scale phase, potential people should be aware of and you guys can help with?
All right. Love that question, because that was where the conversation should have gone from what we were discussing. Yeah, and those are the businesses that we love, onboarding and working with, where they are growing so fast that the business is shaking. And yeah, we have exercised our that muscle well, where we can come in and help them make those decisions rather easily with comfort, take that decision fatigue off of their mind and take it upon ourselves to help them not run out of stock, make sure we have enough inventory for all sales channels, and plan a better supply chain all together. In that case, it is really important that people you partner with, when it comes to your 3PL warehouse, when it comes to your freight forwarders, and even your suppliers. Sometimes you would have to go and look for competitor suppliers as well. Why am I saying this? When you have good partners, they keep their word. When they say that they're going to pick your inventory on this date and deliver it on this date, if they are sticking to those dates and they are in constant communication with you,
Mm.
if there are any delays, I have seen this times and time over, where businesses that have good partners good 3PL partners, good freight forwarder partners, good suppliers that stick to their deadlines, that stick to their timelines, planning becomes much easier, planning becomes more predictable, and they can scale beautifully. It's a beautiful thing to watch a brand go from a million to the 10 million smoothly. Of course there are going to be challenges, but those challenges become, you know, a lot easier to deal with when you have great partners you are working with. So make sure you get the best 3PL you can, you get the best freight forwarders you can. And how you can judge them, how you can rate them, we can help you out with that, or you could do your own research on it. There are people out there who help you pick those 3PL and freight forwarder partners. There are people out there who do who provide counter sourcing services. So you could reach out to them and make sure the suppliers you're getting are really great at communicating those deadlines and sticking to those deadlines.
Cool. So now,
One thing to
go on. Yeah.
One thing to add over here, a big misconception among the e-commerce founders or the business owners, a lot of brands think once they have hired a good 3PL, their inventory problem is solved.
Hmm.
But the 3PL is really executing the decisions.
Yeah.
Someone still has to decide what to buy, when to buy it, when and where to position it, and how much cash to commit.
Exactly.
Because growth itself creates operational problems that marketing can't solve.
Yeah, I think that's very important as well. I think, of course, a lot of the conversation today has to do with the logistics behind and everything. But I think another important thing is having the right teams in place, the people really understand how to navigate all these kind of integrations. Because if you have the systems, but you don't have the people behind that knows how to manage these systems, you're still going to encounter yourself in a difficult situation in terms of how to keep scaling the business. Which I think brings me to my next thing, which is I'm very curious to, at least from the perspective of how the space is moving, around how you guys are seeing the speed and now how some of these decisions have been taken. Because I know AI is something that is being heavily integrated into this kind of space, especially when it comes to logistics and things to say with inventory. So I'm just curious how you guys are seeing the implementation of AI, like system like yours, guys, to be more efficient across this whole operation. And what are some of the recommendations associated with that as well?
Let me ask you a question, Vincenzo. Do you think using AI with bad data gives you a good output?
No.
Obviously. So, with a lot of these brands and a lot of these companies, they need to understand, good data is required for AI to make good decisions as well.
Mm-hmm.
We recommend the use of AI after you have fixed your data problem. There are,
Mm-hmm.
for example, one of the partners we love to work with is Fleabird. They have an AI based forecasting model in their system, and it's great, it works great, but it needs to have all the context, right? It can't know that one of your products, you know there's a sale coming up for one of your product. It can't know that
Mm-hmm.
unless you tell it. And they have the ability in their tool that you can input that information. That
Mm-hmm.
becomes part of good data. Good data is needed for AI to make better decisions, and better, give you better insights as well. It is making things, there are two aspects to it. Okay, it is making things easier in
Yeah.
reality, but there are areas where people have just put a wrapper on ChatGPT and they are calling it an AI tool. That gives you the impression of improvement without there actually being an improvement. You're
Mm-hmm.
just, going on ChatGPT and asking it a question. It doesn't know intimately what your business is, how your business
Yeah.
behaves, how
Mm-hmm.
you behave in those certain situations, how much cash you have ready to invest in your business, or how much cash can be recouped from your business. All of that information becomes part of the clean data pipeline that AI needs to help you. So again, I always recommend exercising caution when you
Yeah,
are utilizing AI, because it can hallucinate, it can give you the answers you want to hear rather than
exactly.
what you need to hear.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So I guess to start bringing this to a closure, something I would love to use the last couple of minutes around is, how everything we just discussed is something that you guys could potentially add value, especially to all those kind of Amazon sellers that are having are here watching this episode and thinking, that's all those things I'm actually having the struggle right now. And they're really keen to understand, how potentially they can solve all these issues with what you guys do that is Amazon. So if you guys can give us like a quick rundown, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Shay, you want to take over?
Sure. Okay. So uh, I got this question very frequently, uh,
Hmm.
and I say this like more sales can actually make your business less healthy. This
Mm.
sounds counterintuitive, but I think more sales can actually make an e-commerce business less healthy. If you are
Mm.
growing rapidly, but your inventory planning isn't keeping up, every additional dollar of your revenue may require more working capital. So you might have a 5 million in your revenue, but constantly be cash constrained because you have got too much money tied up in the inventory.
Yeah.
So I don't think brands should only ask how fast can we grow. They should also ask, can our supply chain and cash flow support that growth or not?
Cool.
And
Cool.
one thing to add over here, that would be a closer from my side. The best
Mm.
marketing campaigns in the world can actually make an inventory problem worse. So that's where we come in.
Yeah. Well said. Awesome, guys. So I think, was an awesome conversation, and I know this is such a vast topic, and of course, I would love people to continue this conversation with you guys. So how people can find you, where people can have a conversation with you. And then, of course, I will make sure to put all the information down below.
They can visit our website. It's easeamazon.com, ease amazon.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, guys, everybody watching and hearing, of course, if you have any issues when it comes to inventory and all the logistics associated with that, make sure you check them out. And other than that, guys, it was a pleasure to have you both, and hopefully, see you soon in the next one. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us, and it was great. It was a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Thank you. Thank you for
Bye.
having us. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.